for like small
Try to
town
keep-
feel
right.
and just keep all the commercial stuff off to the side.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I mean, it's already like, sometimes the traffic is crazy. That's why I live with this kind of traffic.
Oh, he drives the commute as well?
Highway is nice and quiet, I don't think it gets too busy in there. But Lehigh, there's a lot of.
Which parts? Describe what you're next to. Where do you live next to?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I live like next to Sky Ridge.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like,
It's a good area.
it was right there. Yeah, I live sort of by Dave's like Sky Ridge, and you just like go forward. That's where I live. I also live by,
There were several months.
Eagle Crest Elementary.
Oh, yeah, I can picture that.
That's where I used to go, and so it's literally this one.
Yeah, I can picture exactly what you live. Yeah, those are nice neighborhoods.
Well, so
Oh, that's a very nice picture of somebody on your camera that close. Like there's not a single even.
Next.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
This is actually,
That's a good one. I love that picture. Yeah, that's a really good one. So save that one. Is that one with long? Oh yeah, on the side. I liked it long. He made me cut it. I cried. I loved it long. Do you love it long? You like it short? I love it short, don't get me wrong, but I do know I love it short.
It's because my
I was like, oh yeah, that was on our car ride.
Oh, down here.
It was like super. Marley.
Marty, oh, that's Show the picture of you and Tori. It's my
Is it
favorite picture. It's my very
Where's Maddie right
Wait.
she's up back to this island.
Okay, and what year is she?
That's so
Freshman?
cute.
Freshman?
That's
sophomore?
I know, but that's what's cool about it.
It's
It's just a
last
cool,
year.
you know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
I like
She's like 23.
Yeah, she's.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Good, how are you?
And then after Maddie.
There's Abby.
Access.
And she's
Remember
at. Peter and
no such thing as far as.
Tax at Sky Ridge.
Does he walk?
She has.
Like mommy walks?
Oh my gosh.
Remember that?
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
Yeah.
Is he driving?
He has.
July 15th.
He's
16 days.
Yeah, he's
Oh, he gets lots of breakfast.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
your mom, your dad's, and then him are in the car, he's driving.
yeah,
Only part
sometimes
of
you like.
I like the foundation, but that is aggressive. How do you know?
Isn't that pretty girl on your phone?
Yeah.
Can I see it?
There you go.
Tori forced him. I don't know if it was the loss of a dare or something.
Pretty blurry.
I'm like,
Hopefully that picture doesn't get out.
you're very beautiful.
I have it on social media.
Unless they.
That's awesome. Who did the makeup for you?
She begged him. It's the it's online. It's called the Brother Sister Makeup Challenge. So then he did her makeup.
Yep. And she,
And how did she give a picture of her? How
Yeah, where's her picture? She did a picture
Where
of
does
her.
this go?
how are you with that?
Hers was a mess. I
Oh,
do
was
with
it?
that.
I didn't do
Really
it.
skilled.
I didn't do it.
We just went to Jake did it first.
Where does this go?
Jake Halverson did the makeup.
Is
So
she
Jake
still
and
with?
Tori are good friends, they hang out quite a bit. Kristen? Jake and Tori hang out a lot.
Yeah, well,
They hang out. He hangs out with our family a lot.
Okay.
He's like part of the family.
Yeah. Well, when they start going to Disneyland again.
Exactly.
Then it's like, you know.
Exactly, he's like a son, he's like our.
And Dax got me taking ice cream. I got a real bird. I got like a small bird. I got that. And in the movie, I was like, I love ice cream.
It's like this big, it's like this big. But it's, I think the Jack Jordan, she's like, oh, it's not ice cream. It wasn't me, or anything. The Ben got his friend, big, so he got a ice cream. That was in.
No, I've done it. It's like my favorite ice cream place.
It was really good.
What is that? Where?
That's 6 bucks.
That looks so fun.
What was it called? The Dune Drop?
I'm never really like scared of rides. Like I'll go.
I'm not.
Like I'll go on
Roller
it.
coasters are my
She liked the rest of it.
Yeah, I
So
love
you
it.
should definitely back.
That's so
The
bad.
rocket going down there, right up on the touch pillar.
Yes, or a drop shoe.
There's one that's double the height.
At Six Flags Magic Mountain, it's twice
It
as
goes
high.
on the side of this.
That's
And then
so
there's also a
fun.
rack that goes straight up.
So on the other side of that is a rocket that's double the height.
I have to swallow. That's a really much better parachute go on Cannibal.
Cannibals?
Oh,
That
Cannibals
one
is a baby
good,
ride.
yes. It's so fun.
The rides that we went on at Six Flags, this one.
I'm too soft.
I love, it's scary though.
Yeah, so there's sad.
Where's more pictures of
So Cannibal is just like a yawn to you guys.
Yeah, it's
Growing up.
scary.
So there's no fear of heights.
That's nice. And
Is there no fear of heights in the barn Cannibal?
we just had to open one time. Like super tired. He wasn't cold, he was just tired. And I was like,
Ben, is there no fear of heights in the barn Cannibal?
I did.
Oh,
I have a fear of heights, but not major. If
I would say
I'm gonna blow up
Caroline.
at
How's it going?
Better than
Like
this
if
time.
our whole family went.
Yesterday about
Zip lining, that's what I was gonna say, so zip lining.
Right?
I would be
I'd be okay with zip.
Debbie and
But for me, I was just
Andy Schwartz, and I can say Caroline. So half.
Now you free fall.
I would be scared to death.
I mean, I might.
That would be crazy.
that felt like it was
Oh, I think
triggered
I'm afraid of
conversations with
What about your?
I'll do this, guys.
Now you have to wait till you're teaching.
Dan
I
Griffin
would be okay with that because I feel, I trust parachutes.
more than anyone else. And
Yeah, I said I would.
But the bungee jump, like how do you know that's the referendum?
that was going to be the case.
Yeah, when I could like sit on it, or when he hit something, that's what I was like, oh, that's great.
Well, he's the son.
Bungee jump would be tough.
I would never trust him.
They were really scared.
I told him.
I could bridge right down on the.
That's a good.
You know what I'm talking about? The George one.
So,
Oh, like it's working on.
The next question.
Like bungee jump is like, would you?
Who gets to play?
Because that'd be a place, which I think that the bungee jump, right? They have a place that's
Pay well. There's, they wanted
I
to
would do that.
take a
kind of
motion
thing that goes
yesterday
through.
that said
Oh,
place
yeah.
on August 15th.
It's a massive thing. It's
All
like
you want
No later there.
Does it bridge the?
Makes it a lot easier for say no. But
yeah, that makes sense. It's going to make it tricky, but
you guys are going to have to decide, are you going to make that decision or is Scott going to make that decision? I don't think that's a decision that you can have up by committee, anything. It's a question of does Scott make that decision?
Yeah.
Or does
we'll have to.
Jennifer make that decision? That's the next big hard
Well, at least
decision.
they can finish till the end of the year, which is hopefully, again, with money, to get through the end of the year.
which
That is an important question.
is great. Because that leaves time for all.
I would like to see that. I hate to displace kids.
No, they will, they, you know,
Thanks for not letting me
the
start
question
touching you.
becomes who doesn't get paid between now and then? That's what,
It's fierce.
that'll, and
It's got a little
the
fast.
flex point at this
The
point
statement.
is
We'll go down all of it.
whether they pay. As long as they don't pay, at least they can.
You're probably staying really well hydrated now that you found this the results here.
Well,
I
those
should
are,
turn that off.
I don't know how this.
is it on?
It's the red.
Oh, boy. Just recorded Royce and I's phone conversation.
Does anyone else?
The slides are really good, and we love the laser river on the tubes. So for what we do, we like it. I don't know if I would have liked it, but I liked it. They just go on different slides. I just think older kids on the slide, when we sit on the tubes, we choose the Lady River. It's a fun day. And we understand the way it's going, right? After we spend the day at the water park.
Our students still want
Have you ever gone to church?
Chris, I'm telling you, you should write a book about like tips for Disneyland.
Like, do this, don't do this. Do this.
Or just to say
In the room, you can like, you can bring just about anything you want.
because
Just about everything.
It's like a big glass stone, it's Nutella and stuff.
That's what they're called.
So, they actually are really like.
Amber, is that you? Those are good eating. Excited for your cat presentation. Now we have a ton of cozy spotlight. You get the Walmart for that cat.
I won't buy it.
Telling her deal.
They're almost asking you to buy it. Like,
I'll eat Nutella on
no excuse now. Mine's sometime prosthetic, so it can't be. That's why you just don't buy it.
Peanut butter and toast. I can't have it straight.
It's like a Reese's peanut butter sandwich.
Look at Meryl Bobby. Okay, do it on my phone because I'm going to do the Instagram.
Okay, well, I'm gonna throw this one up.
I do portraits, so it's really sweet. They get perspective in the background.
You had a good one.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. The portrait, you know, and I do too, and have a good.
Hey, Steffi.
You guys are just glad to be here. Probably where it's at spot, right? You know, I think we're okay. So we're gonna start at 6. Okay, so if you come out,
Where do you want us to go when they say come out?
Just these chairs right
Oh,
here.
perfect. Yeah.
And then first, I don't know if we can bring some.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that would be great.
And then we'll just talk about data because we're going to talk about rankings and
He has some info about teachers and parents, and then I'm gonna talk about the kids. So it's just a couple minutes, yeah. Perfect. Great.
I figured for school teacher, like. Oh, yeah. Yep.
the dates for
So I was gonna send out something.
And my dad always asks me, why is my name?
Oh, speaking of Reese's, Jason.
I don't think it was a big deal.
By the way, as soon as I sort of thought, that's what I'm thinking about now, instead of like a peanut butter sandwich, it's with Nutella, and just have like a Reese's peanut butter sandwich.
Guys, we're all gonna try this next week. Because I'm obsessed with, I'm obsessed with Reese's. That's my favorite one, is the Reese's Pieces.
I haven't even had them.
They're amazing, so those are the best. And that's why I said, but he just bought it on his, name to me when I woke up. And yeah, so I've never had neither of his people, so we're gonna each take one of these, we're gonna have tried
I don't like that because peanut butter cups are like so familiar. Now they're changing the peanut butter chocolate.
You know how much I love peanut butter. I do go a little bit more, so it seems like I can bring it to
I used to be a Maxwell.
That'll be that, that'll be the right.
I don't think we should have a separation though. Reese's Pieces.
No, the Reese's Pieces you
Reese, or the Reese's Pieces. They're just perfect just the way they are.
I think they can.
It's like remaking like Abbott Dancing Moves or something. Just, wow. Just don't do that. That'd be great. Everyone's seen Avengers. Hey, have you seen Endgame?
Have we all seen it?
No, I can't talk. It's spoiler. It's like what you these days, right? People are gonna start talking about it. We're not saying that. There's gonna be more talk about it.
think we're going to go ahead and get started. Seeing if Jim and David will start. That's okay.
I am moving to Georgia to get it. I really backpack it instead of doing
Oh, no, the gavel? No, you're fine.
You really cannot see anything. Okay. See anything, like nothing changed because the light's right here.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today is May 9th, 2019. This is the State Charter School Board meeting. Welcome, everyone who's here to be with us, and welcome to staff and board members. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment. It looks like we had one person sign up. Kim Frank, would you like to come up and make a comment? Make sure you turn that mic on.
Is it on? Kim Frank with Utah Charter Network. I hope you all have at the top of your email an invitation to, or a save the date to our conference this summer. We are thrilled to announce that we have Timothy Shriver of the Shriver-Kennedy clan coming to Utah to speak that day. He is the International Board Chair of the Special Olympics. He's also the board chair of a group called CASTLE that concentrates on social and emotional learning. And we know that's been a hot topic in Utah of late, in the country, I imagine. The unfortunate news is, and I have to apologize for this, it is scheduled for August 8th, which is the same day you have a charter board meeting. That is the only day all summer long that he was available that he could come. So we are hoping that either one of two things can happen. You can rearrange your date. I know that's like turning the Titanic around probably. Or we could maybe work with you to have a room available. We're looking at a couple locations in Salt Lake City downtown. Maybe you could have your meeting that day at the location that we're having our conference. It's going to be a great day. We're having Mr. Shriver speak in the morning. Then after that, we'll have a panel discussion. And then a lunch will be provided. Then after that, we're going to have an executive session for leaders in the education community. I'm working with Tammy Pfeiffer in the governor's office, and she is going to be inviting some of the governor's cabinet and the who's who's. Sid Dixon has committed to come. She's going to be on our panel. So it's going to be a great executive session to kind of introduce you and other leaders of education in Utah to the whole idea of social emotional learning and what we can do in Utah to lift that, the news of that. And he's not trying to sell anything. He's just making everyone aware of the options that are out there. There are lots of organizations out there, but CASTLE is one that has a lot of really good data on how social and emotional learning improves student outcomes, which is, of course, something we're all interested in. Anyway, I want to invite you all personally to mark your calendars for August 8th. I'm not sure what you can do, but I would love to have you there for any or all of the day. And if you would like to work with me on finding a room within the location that we're going to be, we're working on 2 different locations right now, so I'm not prepared to announce that yet, but we'd love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the board chair report. First of all, I want to announce that the bathrooms on this level are not working. So you're going to have to go up a floor or down a floor. The other thing is, if you signed up for graduation, make sure you know when those are, because they're coming up. Yes.
Could I request that that link be sent out again, just to double check?
Sure.
James will send it.
Okay. James will resend it. And the last thing on the board chair report is we have some exciting news. One of our board members received their PhD, Dr. Delana Tonks. Congratulations. We have a card for you.
Thanks, that's so nice of you.
Thank you. Took a lot of hard work. I don't even know because I've never earned a PhD, but it sounds like a lot of hard work. Yes, we can only call her Dr. Tonks today. She won't accept any other names. You are welcome. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Do I have a motion or anything? Yes. Member Phillips.
I would like to ask that the calendar for next year be taken off the consent calendar, or the consent agenda for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion to take the next year's calendar off the consent calendar. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Member Bassett seconded that, so it is off the consent calendar. Oh, that's a good point. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll take that off the consent calendar. Now, do we discuss this or do we vote on the consent calendar? Okay, can we vote on the consent calendar minus the calendar? Any motions there?
I'd like to move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Member Moss. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it passes. Consent calendar passes. Now we will discuss the item taken off the consent calendar. Member Phillips.
I would like to suggest that we modify by a day or two or a week if necessary the scheduled August State Charter School Board meeting to accommodate the Utah Charter Networks conference. And just as a general statement, let me just say that the reason that I would like to have that happen is because I think that as much as we can and going into the future, I realize this year's calendar is set, but going into the future, that if we could accommodate and work with our associations on the dates of their conferences, I believe that those conferences are an excellent time not only for State Charter School Board members to be accessible to the schools, the administrators and board members of the schools they authorize, but also to show support for the good work that's being done by our associations to improve the caliber of the charter schools that we authorize, as well as to support them in the workshops that allow them to become better at their craft.
Okay. Any discussion of the motion? Dr. Tonks.
I'm going to be talking a lot this meeting. Just kidding. I don't disagree with anything that Member Phillips said and am fully supportive of our associations and the help that they provide to us. My concern with moving the date is that I believe, and maybe staff can correct me if I'm wrong, that the proposals that are due for new charters will be heard that day. That date may have already been given to them and they may have already taken time off work, and I'm not sure how disruptive that would be to the schedules of those who were planning on being here to propose for new charter schools. Perhaps staff could enlighten us on that.
So Dr. Tonks is correct. That is our meeting where we have the new school proposals. It is also where we have expansion requests come to us. So it is a pretty big meeting for us. It is always listed that it's tentative, that we can't guarantee because it's not yet approved, but we do tell them that typically it is the second month in August, so that is what has been communicated to them.
I have a follow-up.
Go ahead.
Do we have an idea of how many schools are going to be applying or how many people would be affected? I don't know if staff is aware.
Mrs. Narrows could answer that.
As of today, I would say probably a guarantee of 5, but we've averaged between 9 and 11 in the past few years, so it's hard to give a number this early.
Thank you.
Member Phillips.
My initial thought after Dr. Tonks, I really just wanted to say that, Dr. Tonks' comments would be that that because the date is tentative, we still have an opportunity to adjust it slightly and to have the schools that are eager to have their proposals heard adjust. My thought is also that rather than move it up, we should move it back so that they would not be crunched for time, but that we could even probably accommodate a meeting in that same week on a different day. My thought is because we have the opportunity to change that one, we ought to consider doing it since I don't think that anybody is planning on a date that was on a tentative calendar.
Director Lampert. I know getting space another day is
we were
tricky.
Fortunately, Member Phillips gave us a heads up about that she was going to do this. So James has looked at when the boardrooms are available. So right now they are available on August 9th, August 13th. So August 9th is that Friday. It's just the day after. August 13th is the next Tuesday. August 20th is the Tuesday after that. August 28th is the last Wednesday of the month, and 29th and 30th. And Basement West is available August 27th, 28th, and 29th. Just a note that if you go to the last week in August, that puts it very close to your September meeting.
Chair.
Yes, Dr. Tonks.
So thank you, Jennifer, for all of those dates. The only date that I would be able to attend would be the 9th, would be the day after that. Our schools are starting up and we have orientations, and I think for most of us on the board, that might start interfering with our schedules.
Member Phillips.
Just a comment as well, and then a proposal. My understanding, Jennifer, is that, or Director Lambert, is that we have already ascertained the dates of a possible UAPCS conference the following June, and have attempted to accommodate that as well. Is that correct?
There fortunately was not a need to for this next year in 2020, that they're meeting on the Monday and Tuesday. And so it's the same week of our board meeting, but it's not the same day.
Okay. I would like to move then that we adopt the calendar as presented with the change to the August board meeting from Thursday, August the 8th to Friday, August the 9th.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions to the motion? Dr. Tonks.
I would just like to make sure that our board members could attend.
Quick question, if I could. Were there any dates prior to the 8th or during that week? And I'm sorry if I missed it. I heard the 9th and thereafter, but.
That is not, I would turn it to James. You didn't send me any dates prior to the 8th. Was that because there weren't any available?
What I sent you is what was available throughout the month of August.
So those are the only dates that were available in August. We could try to go off-site. There's some issues with that. There's only so many off-site areas available that do not charge, and then charging to, there's a process to get things approved on that. So I guess in August, could we maybe even get that? It would be more difficult to go off-site.
If others can make the 9th, I can probably make that work, shuffle some things. I just want to make sure I wasn't ruling out another option.
Does the 9th work for most board members? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion of the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the school spotlight. We are looking at the growth of the lowest quartile group, and we have invited Mountainville Academy to be with us today, and I'll turn the time over to Michael. Yeah, come on up, take some seats. We're happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Chair Lankowski. So Director Lambert and I had the pleasure of visiting Mountainville Academy a few weeks ago to get some understanding on how they had such a great improvement in the bottom 25%. So this month we are highlighting and spotlighting Mountainville Academy for the growth in the lowest 25% of students. The growth of the lowest 25% of students is a newer metric that's been included into state accountability and is looking at the lowest performing students, the lowest 25% performing students, and how they grow throughout the course of the year. And Mountainville had one of the highest, with 75.3% of the lowest 25% of students making typical or better progress. This is a huge accomplishment, and it's an increase of 27.8% from last year. You can see from the data here how they compared to all students and how the school compares to the state average with 75% over 61%. Mountainville Academy is not only successful in growing the lowest 25%, but they are also very successful in growing all of their students. And you can see their growth here on this slide. Language arts, they had a growth of 58. Math at growth of 65. And for science, a growth of 61.5. So strong growth throughout the school. So we have Mountainville Academy here today to talk to us a little bit about what they did to be successful in this area, and to answer any questions that you might have.
Great, thank you, Michael, and welcome. Would you introduce yourselves?
My name is Jason Nielsen.
He's the vice principal.
Mountainville Academy.
Yes, I am Kristen Barnes. I'm the registrar.
I'm Ben Barnes. I am going to be student body president next year.
I'm Kate Skousen. I'm 6th grade representative of Student Council, and next year I'll be 7th rep.
My name is Paisley Fillmore, and I will be, and I'm in 6th grade, and I will be next year's Student Council for 7th grade.
Thank you, and welcome to our meeting.
So I think for us, when we were looking at the scores in the previous years, I would say that we were definitely disappointed. And we wanted to improve. We were concerned. And we really took some time to make sure that we had buy-in from our students, from our teachers, from our parents, and also making sure that we're aligning what we're teaching in the classrooms with the state standards. I think that's really our secret to success. And I could see it, especially in the teachers, is that they did see that disappointment, and they wanted to make sure that the tests were representative of what they're learning in our schools. And they spent a lot of time in PLC groups, every Friday meeting before school, making sure that their curriculum was aligned with the testing standards. And this was really important to them. They wanted to make sure that these tests were going to be reflective of more of what we're teaching in the schools. And I could see the passion that they were putting forth in their teaching. Also with parents, we wanted to make sure that the parents were educated on what exactly the test was for. We had a higher than we would like opt-out rate for our parents previously, and one thing that we really tried to do is to educate them to understand what this testing data is used for, that it's confidential, that it's protected, and it's not going to be shared with people that don't need to have that information. And after we communicated that through parent communications, and also we were free to, we told them they could come in and talk with us and have a discussion about where this testing data is going to be used. And we changed a lot of misperceptions, and our testing rate, our opt-out is much, much lower, dramatically lower than the previous year. Yep, so we're also going to talk a little bit more about
the students.
The students.
So what we found, I loved aligning with the teachers and the parents, but we thought, of course, who do we need to speak to? We need to speak to the students, right? So we had a big launch last year before testing. Hank R. Smith came and spoke about doing your best and showing what you've learned and being proud of what you're learning in school and being excited. It was kind of like a pep rally, right? Let's get excited about testing. And then the teachers and students had lots of discussions about this is a way to celebrate. We use the word celebrate quite a bit in our school about pertaining to this topic. Let's celebrate what you've learned this year, and let's show what you guys have learned this year. This can be really fun. And they also did some creative thinking. In the classroom they would have chewing gum. We don't allow gum at our school. Chewing gum and little mini oranges and water bottles, and then they would this is during testing, and then you'd have a brain break where they would play a video and everyone would stand up and do something crazy. So it was just a way to say, okay, we are testing, we want to show what we've learned and we're proud of what we've achieved this year, but let's also make this an enjoyable experience. It's not, let's just go take a test. This sounds like torture, right? And you could see this if you looked in the classrooms. I would be doing tours. I do tours, and I would walk through and go, look how cool our testing is. Like, this is amazing, right? So we really have seen, we also have a celebration along with Let's Celebrate. There's an end of the testing celebration called Sharpen the Paw. We're actually doing it the next few weeks, where they do a Sharpen the Saw, which is, of course, learning. The teachers each chose a thing that they like to do in their spare time to sharpen their saw, which is one of the 7 habits. And so all the students get to sign up and be with a teacher in the classroom and do one of their favorite activities with them. So that's kind of a reward at the end. So it just feels, I feel like the culture and the energy of this testing is, it's like a whole new world. So we really love to see this change at our school.
Thank you. That's good information. The opt-out rate improving and making the testing more fun. Those are great suggestions. And it looks like it worked really well for you. Yeah. Thank you. Was there anything else you wanted to present?
Nope.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. We have a certificate for you, and we'll come and give it to you, and we'd like to get a picture.
Oh, we would love a picture. We want to put it on our Instagram and our Facebook, right?
The picture you guys want to send.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. It's a big deal. Yeah. Congratulations. 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 Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Certificate. Here, hold it up to hold it. So there, the cameras right over here. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to all get a big get around. You guys are going to
You should.
Say cheese.
Cheese. Thank you. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, that was a lot of fun. That's great. Okay, Summit Academy Credit Enhancement Certification. Who's telling us about this, Jennifer?
I will start it.
Okay.
Summit Academy. Oh, sorry, Mike. Summit Academy is here. Do you want them to come on up if there's any questions?
Yes. Would you please come up and introduce yourselves? Welcome. Go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah.
I think I'm on. Okay. Thank you for having us today. My name is Tyler Wood. I'm the Executive Director at Summit Academy Schools.
I'm Stephanie Archibald, Business Administrator.
And I'm David Robertson with Lewis Young Robertson in Birmingham, Financial Advisor to the Academy.
Thank you. Welcome.
So the reason why that this is on the agenda, Summit Academy is seeking credit enhancement from the Charter School Finance Authority. In that, they need to have a certification from their authorizer. And so they were a little bit late in submitting the request. However, staff was able to work with them to get together the certification that you find in your binder and on the website. Normally, we would put this on consent if there's no if it was just straightforward. There are a couple of things to note. Their enrollment did decrease this last year, and so we did put that. Also, the school performance is somewhat mixed, especially with the newest campus that they have that is in their first year. And so we just wanted to bring the school here, allow them to be able to answer any questions and see if you are okay with the certification. If you are, then the school can submit it with their application to the Charter School Finance Authority. I want to make a note that you are not deciding whether or not they get the credit enhancement. Your decision is just if you are okay with the certification as it right now reads.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for our staff or for Summit's representatives?
I have a question.
Dr. Thomas.
That's just not getting old anytime soon. Thank you. Jennifer, Director Lambert, can you remind me of the process? Is this following the same patterns that we've done for other schools in the past? Can you just remind me what that's looked like previously? Is this the first time that we've done this? Just give me some more background information.
So I'm trying to think about maybe 9 months ago. Yeah. The Charter School Finance Authority adopted kind of a new procedure. So in the past, once the school made their application, then the Charter School Finance Authority would reach out to us as the authorizer to request a certification. But by then, the timeline was so fast, it was really hard for us to put it together. So I want to give credit to Summit Academy that because this was a new process, they probably were not as, they didn't realize that they had to get the certification before they put in the application. So it is somewhat of a different process, but the certification has always happened. There's maybe some different things from the past, like in the past we used to have to ask if they were on budget, within 5% of their budget. Now the school is directly reporting that in their application. We don't have to certify that. So there's been a few minor changes, but generally speaking, this is a similar certification as in the past. It's just a slightly different process. And part of it is bringing it to you rather on consent or even as discussion is that the Charter School Finance Authority has requested that this board be more aware of what is being certified and who is seeking this kind of bonding because it does affect the whole charter movement.
Thank you. Go to
Member Phillips.
Just wanted to point out that while there has been some decrease in enrollment, particularly from 2017 to 2019, the enrollment cap for the school has increased significantly since its inaugural year, and the enrollment is still very robust. And so I personally have no reservations about sort of the financial health of the school in that regard.
Can I say?
Yes.
So
Director
again, the good news is we don't have to make the assessment of their financial health. I think the question is what we have presented in the certification. Is there anything that you would like to add in that or take, out of that? Are you comfortable with the certification as it stands?
I have just a procedural question. So these are just areas of concern. There's not have we determined, explain to us how this works? Like, is there a minimum standard and they're not meeting it, and so we're going to have to make adjustments, or we just have to recommend them, and you're pointing out some things we might want to think about?
Unless I get told differently by the Charter School Finance Authority, the certification, I believe, I mean, we went very exact to what it is that we are to certify, and we answered that accordingly. So again, it's not that you guys are being asked to make the decision of their financial health, because in their application, there is a lot of work done, and there's a lot, that's why they have sorry, remind me the exact title that you serve.
Financial
Advisor, correct. And then they have, Zions Bank is looking over it. So there's a lot of looking at this. You're not certifying whether or not they should get the bond or any of those kind of questions. You're just certifying to this information and what we have stated.
Quick question.
Yes, Member Moss.
I have just one question, which I don't think really affects the limited question we're asked to weigh in on. I just noticing here that the Bluffdale campus has very good re-enrollment rates, 87, 88%, right? Appears to be higher than Independence, although Bluffdale's academic performance, at least on state assessments, is actually the lowest of the three. So you've got a bit of an inverse relationship there, it appears, between academic performance and re-enrollment. So Bluffdale looks pretty strong. I guess the only question for credit purposes is whether that's stable and whether they can continue to draw, and whether the academic performance might play into that, or their efforts to bring that academic performance up to the others. For example, Independence is doing very well, right? Is that something that, looking down the road, to make sure that that re-enrollment doesn't sag because of that?
Right. So I appreciate the question. Yeah, we in looking at next year, we're continue to rise in our enrollment with our Bluffdale campus. We've had a change in leadership that has been instrumental in keeping that continuity with our newest campus. It's in its third year at this point.
Thank you. Okay, that's the only thing I could see down the road perhaps affecting the enrollment rates, right? So I don't know the competition in the area. Looks like you're pulling in a great group of kids. Just
Yeah, and if I can speak just to the growth pattern out, the Independence is campuses that the highest density area at the point of the mountain there. We do quite a bit of shuttling out to our newer campus as well to be able to accommodate that. We are at capacity and expect to be at capacity at our Independence campus. That will be our largest physical campus, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for staff or for Summit's representatives? I'm ready for a motion then.
I would like to move that we certify the information as presented to us and discussed today to the authority.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Director Lambert.
Sorry. Just one thing as we're talking, I just realized, and I saw this because we're saying that Bluffdale is your newest campus, correct? But if we're looking at the re-enrollment, I just wonder if we have mixed up the Independence and Bluffdale numbers. So we're just going to have to check that. Is the board okay if we just make those changes to reflect what?
Yeah,
and I don't know, I'm going to have to go look. I don't know why it's showing that at the moment.
Okay, Member Phillips is going to amend the motion.
Do we have to vote on the original motion and its second before we amend? Or can we substitute? Okay, I'd like to substitute the original motion with the wording with additional changes to data as reviewed by SCSB staff.
Okay.
So I'll accept the substitution and second it.
That was Dr. Tonks. You got that, James? Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is closed session. Okay. We need to do a roll call vote to go into closed session.
Make a motion first. I'll make the motion.
Oh, the purpose is being to discuss. Oh,
I'll make the
okay.
motion.
Dr. Tonks.
I move that we go into closed session for the purpose of discussing the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of one or more individuals.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we need a second or just individual votes? Okay, we have a second by Member Moss, and now we will individually vote on whether we are going into closed session. Member Bowles.
Aye.
Member
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, we are in closed session.
Do you want to go?
until 11:40.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Well, we just
I'd
voted
l-
to have a recess. So
Yeah, I'd like to move to go back into, I think we have to move that in public, though, so I think we are.
Testing.
Yeah, you make a valid point, right?
Lasts a long time though. But there for a while, yeah, she is. But there for a while, it was just.
It was like every year, I mean, 2 years, every.
Yeah, she established the rapport with people too.
She just was great.
So did you go out with those?
We need to, we're waiting to get audio back, because we've got to be an open web host. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. What is the?
Hello, hello. Yeah, it's just not over the YouTube yet.
I think it is a great thing for, yes,
they
can't, October 21st.
I know we did for one person. June was July one.
Yeah.
I didn't see it being on there.
Probably because it came out as what's going on, but yes, I remember, yes, so it would be great, more board members who can go.
I think I'd be interested too.
If I can, I gotta look at one thing, and if I can, I'll be there.
I went 2 years ago.
I think the more staff and board members I can get with that, because it's really good for training. And what I love is the discussions.
Oh, perfect.
We are back in open session, so we need to vote to come out of closed session, and we need to do each personal vote. We need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to go out of closed session.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Member Bowles and second by Member Phillips, which now, they want to be called doctor now, too. And we'll need to vote, I think we need to vote individually. I think we need to vote individually. Member Bowles.
Aye.
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 You may make note of Crystal.
Crystal left the executive session, unfortunately, for a personal matter, and we will adjourn now for lunch. Thank you. Oh, we already voted, because we voted it. Dr. Crystal, what's the
elementary director.
Thank you. I'm just going to turn it over to you.
So last night our board made a vote to close our operations as a charter no later than August 15th of this year. And we are here to basically acknowledge that and give any official notice and to receive any direction from you.
Thank you. Dr. Tonks.
Thank you for being here. I know this has been a rough couple of weeks for all of you, and I appreciate your determination in trying to do what you need to for your school. I would move to acknowledge the AISU Governing Board's decision to close the American International School of Utah by August 15th and the termination of their charter.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Member Bowles. Any discussion to the motion by board members? Yes. Member Phillips.
I just want, as part of the record of the public minutes, to reflect our sincere sadness that this school has, the governing board of the school and its leaders have had to come to this decision, and acknowledge how many students and families are involved in such a decision and how much transition and challenge there is to that. In addition, while it's very sad, it's also quite amazing to see a group of leaders take initiative on something that they themselves did not create, but are facing and acting responsibly in light of. And that has not gone unnoticed by our board members, and nor has the impact, emotional, educational, and otherwise, gone unnoticed. We appreciate the effort and time and consideration that has gone into every single action that the governing board and the administration have taken leading up to that decision last night.
Thank you. Member Phillips. Member Moss.
I'll just add a comment for the record that we've received, as you probably know, numerous communications from parents expressing their gratitude for what's been done to their kids. And so while we understand this is, I think, the right decision and a difficult but wise one, we should acknowledge all the good that has been done for kids at the school by a lot of dedicated, caring teachers and administrators. And so with the school closing, they'll, I'm sure, take that with them. But we think this is wise, somewhat regrettable, but want to make sure that we thank you for all those who have done good for those kids.
Thank you, Member Moss. Any other comments or questions from board members? Okay, we have a motion on the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, and we'll have staff work with you as we go through this transition. And thank you for being here. I know that was a hard decision. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is strategic planning and discussion. We started this discussion at our last meeting in Park City, and would like to continue it. We didn't have time to talk about all the things that we wanted to discuss. So, yeah, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back for the strategic planning.
Here's a transition.
It is.
Told you it's hard.
Our students are the West Coast Region National Finalists for the Cyber Mission. Cyber Suppressant. They discovered new macrophages within the unit that Professor Pinelli.
Wow. What's a macrophage?
I don't know, some science.
I was like, I have no idea what that means.
They got to name it? What did they call it? Hopefully, Delana Lopoulos something or other. They put your name in it?
No, not after me. So funny. Yeah, one of the ladies, Professor Sons, is in our school.
Oh, cool. So he's a heavy science guy. Is he an advisor then? Does the professor kind of weigh in?
Professor Julie Rose.
Cool.
So they've been working on the daily labs with together their science fair project, and they're over national.
That's so cool.
DC.
Oh.
Very exciting stuff.
Very, very cool.
We've heard of these rumored things, but now we know the answer.
It's really interesting, and it's Tuesday. Next week? Yeah, I'm going to the National Defense Conference.
Because of your Lieutenant Thomas.
Well, because Rob Bishop's office nominated me. I got chosen to go. I don't even know what it's called. It's called something like the National Defense Fund. So now I'm down at Montgomery.
Maxwell.
Yeah. What's that?
Maxwell.
Oh, Maxwell.
Maxwell.
It's in Montgomery. It's Maxwell. You're right, sorry.
Rebecca would know.
I wouldn't normally eavesdrop you, but I heard Air Force Base, Alabama.
This is what I'm going to. It's called the National Security Forum. It's a 3-day conference for civilians that have been nominated by a senator or a congressman and then chosen out of a field of candidates supposedly. I don't know how competitive that was, but and then I got invited to go, and it's their what are those war school? What's that called?
War college.
War college. Okay. Yeah. So we're with the War College students, and then it's civilians, and then we get 3 days. There's an itinerary of 3 days of kind of what's going on in the world, what the Air Force is doing, what.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So that's next week.
Okay, I want to hear about it when you get back.
Yeah.
I'm not plugged in very much anymore, but that.
Well, and my friend said they're not going to tell you anything because you don't have security clearance.
But you'll feel
I'm like,
good when you're there.
Don't rain on my parade. Maybe they did maybe we got security on us. I had to send a lot of things, so maybe I have security clearance, who knows? Maybe they did a background check.
I'm sure they did. You probably did get a background check.
I probably got something. I'm sure I did. So I'm excited.
That's very cool.
I don't know what it will be like, but.
And how did you get nominated?
Congressman Bishop's office nominated me. Just out of the blue. Peter James. You know Peter?
I've just heard people call.
Okay, so it's May 14th. And the governor always comes, and it's like, it's good. Have you ever been?
Because Tuesdays are really hard. I could go in June or July for admin staff meetings, staff probably 9 to 2 on Tuesdays. So it's just not enough notice to share what's in the
And I didn't.
They're very complicated.
And it's just like, and they just happen to be on days that I don't plan my trips. Yes, I got it. Is that a good sign? So I already have it.
How was it? It was
Yeah, usually I see it, but it was
They said I had been choked. I think there is really an elimination process to get there out last night. So that's how we're trying. So yeah, I got it.
Okay, good, so we, yeah, cool, good.
applications, and they interviewed the top segments for the
So I had my interview. I hope so. So I interviewed Rob. This isn't mine, that's mine. Oh, I signed mine, Jennifer, but, so. I felt like
Jan is still not He's on a special
So we'll
day.
see, they said we'll let you know the
end of June.
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you to you and Brett. You guys were great to work on it together, so.
Good, I hope it meets what you need. So we'll take a draft off of it, because that's probably on our, give you guys
That'd be great.
You should go see
Especially on the timeline and everything, so.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
It's like right
Thank you.
very
Well, that's why I've got to look at my, and even.
Oh, yes, you know. David Roberts. Yeah, thank you very much.
I know, you're coming. I'll give you the schedule. If I get in, I still have.
Brian, she got an interview at 10.
With what?
You know how I did end up applying for University of Pennsylvania. After talking to you and Diana, it inspired me to just go ahead and apply. I had an interview last week.
So it was
now
for,
you're
it
just
was
waiting,
for.
when will they announce?
What was it for?
End of June.
How fantastic.
They'll want you.
That's what I said.
They'll want you. Yeah, they'll want you. And for a lot of reasons, if you're in a university position, well, because you're bright, you present yourself well, but also because you have a breadth of experience that new, young kids don't have, that they can't bring to the table that you have.
Plus you tick their demographics because you're old and you live in Utah and you're females.
I just meant younger.
She just called me old. There's no problem calling me old. Well, I would fit 50 while on the program if I could extend.
Yes, sorry, I'm just scrambling on.
I would be
Can I
excited.
do something for you?
No. Thank you, though. What's that? I do have my caffeine, so I got my lifeline is ready. No, I just too many things scrambling.
I understand.
Can't avoid it, huh? Yeah, clients and opposing counsel, they just don't take a break.
Okay, thank you. That was a good idea to take a break. Thank you, Director Lambert. Next item on the agenda is strategic planning, which I already discussed. One thing that we talked about that I would like to pursue, and a few of you weren't there last time, we talked about putting together a committee of this board to discuss some innovative charters, and maybe like a specific charter, maybe like an innovative charter or charters that we would like to see, and maybe try to get some different criteria that we could operate within. If we could get maybe some legislators on our board that would be open to helping us on that aspect of it. And we talked about maybe some business leaders. We talked about some of our tech. We've got some great tech businesses in this state. If we can get some leaders of those businesses to be on our board, that would be really helpful to see how tech can play into some innovative ideas. Anyway, so we talked about doing a committee to really try to push the envelope a little bit on innovation.
Committee, not board, to get all those individuals on the committee.
Did I call it a board?
That's okay.
Oh, did I say board? Committee of this board. Any ideas on this, or any suggestions of names, or is it something you would like us to work on behind the scenes, or I'm open to discussion and suggestions. Have you thought about this, Member Moss? Yeah.
I've thought about it. I guess one question. It seems like there's a couple things. One of them is looking forward to what kind of schools would fit a need and sort of do things to be innovative. And the other one was maybe looking at whether we can help the schools to be in more of a collaborative discussion about what flexibility and autonomy they have, how they can use it. I just sort of, and there are folks on this board who are in the trenches far more than me, but it seems like it's a little bit difficult to have the same kind of collaboration that maybe some have in the tech industry of, what can we do differently and what can we do responsibly, but have kind of this ecosystem is kind of one word for it of innovation. And so that I think sometimes our schools, which are wonderful, end up maybe looking at pushing the envelope on their own without some of the benefit that others would bring to that discussion. And that might be part of it. That's where I thought some of the tech leaders would have some influence because they've created such a great environment here in Utah. So I guess it's the existing ones and then looking forward of what else might be out there, right? Is that both kind of part of the...
I think that would be a good thing to include. Yeah, I like that idea. And I think it would be good to get the perspective of what kinds of things are holding them back from innovation. I know there's charter schools in our state who would like to do some innovative things that they feel that they can't for whatever reason. And it would be really interesting to hear what those were and what we could, changes we could push for possibly to let them become more innovative. Member Phillips.
I really like the idea of this committee, and in large part, while I support everything that Member Moss has said, I like it in that it's proactively disruptive. I think that setting up opportunities for collaboration, and particularly looking at and even collaborating with the USBE on what kind of obstacles there are to further innovation is its own important task. But the reason I like a committee of this sort is that if you are actively looking for how to serve better populations that are underserved, or what locations could support but do not currently have a charter option, and what sorts of not only types and populations, locations. I think you're going to be proactively disruptive in the sense that you're going to put something out there that's not out there at all right now in our state or maybe anywhere. And I was very pleased to see that Utah was given a high rank for the diversity of its charters, and I think that we should push to always be at the cutting edge of that. And such a committee as you've described, I think is a valuable asset to this board and would also be a valuable asset in trying to achieve the mission and vision of this board.
So logistically, how would we go about this, and how would we, you could either all send me names that we could, to think of, that we could ask to be on this committee, or we could discuss that at some point, probably not in an open meeting. It'd be fun to get, to have an open, what do you think we should?
It depends. So as the chair, you could just appoint members to the committee, and so what you're basically asking for is nominations. Would you only want those nominations from the board, or would you want more general nominations?
We could open it up, yeah. Could open it up to anyone who would give us some good ideas and nominate.
And then what you could do is you could put on consent unless it wants, board members want it for a discussion.
And maybe, and I would picture that we would have our board members on this committee as well, but not a quorum of board members. So whoever is interested in being a part of that committee, let me know.
Can I nominate Delana and Cindy? Since they're both charter
I think you mean Dr.
innovators.
Tonks.
What's that, Dr. Tonks?
Oh, you messed up. You messed
I lost
up.
it.
Just for today.
You're saying no.
Yes, please.
One of the things that I think that a committee such as this could benefit from would be, in considering the goal, the goals, the objectives, would be somebody who within our state and really understands equity in education, as well as somebody, for instance, such as Crystal, who Member Bassett, who had to leave early, but who really understands how to individualize education. But you're looking, so that, in other words, obviously you don't want a committee of 12, but a working committee that had a skill set that allowed for a stakeholder view on such a mission as this committee would have. If you're looking at underserved population, if you're looking at maybe locations that could support a charter that don't have a charter, and you're also looking at diversity of charters, that means people who are knowledgeable about what charters we do have and where we lack. I think looking very specifically at skill sets there is going to be important for this committee if we're going to have recommendations come from this committee that are substantive and that we can act on.
I think those are good things to have the committee focus on, but I think what I viewed as maybe the main goal is to really look at innovation in a way that we haven't been able to do yet in this state due to our limitations. And that's what I'd like to see is how do we take the next step in innovation? How do we go to something very different than we've ever seen in this state? What barriers are there to that? And what ways can we break down those barriers? And well, I think those are all good things. And maybe we're talking about two different committees.
Or the same committee.
Or the same committee with two different purposes. But that's what I view as, I would love to see some way to really push the envelope on innovation and really try some new educational models in this state. And if we can do it in one school or in a variety of schools as a pilot program or as a new charter, I don't know what that looks like exactly, but I'd love to see. We talked about this last meeting, that that innovation can only happen within a small set of parameters, and what I would love to see is how do we break down some of those parameters, and how do we see some really true innovation that kids can benefit from in that charter school or in that group of charter schools, but also statewide. What new methods of education, what new models, what new innovation have we not tried yet that we could try? And that's why I think we need influencers on the board that can help us break down some of those barriers. Maybe we could invite, if someone is willing, it would be great to have a school board, the state school board member or members on our board, legislators, Not on our board, on the committee of our board. I keep saying that wrong. And business leaders. That's what I'm picturing. And that's what I would love to see. So I think that comes into play, and maybe they could work well together. But it really, the drive being, what can we do that's innovative? We can look at other states, other countries, other places, new technology. I don't know what exactly that looks like, but what can we do to really try something innovative in this state? I think we're the place to do that and to try it on a small scale. And if it works and it's successful, then we can share it on the larger scale. So I would take nominations. So, and this is something we can do, after this meeting or anytime you'd like to email me. Go ahead, Member Phillips.
This is just another comment. In the process of that, and I'm just going to play a little bit devil's advocate and apologize in advance that for what I'm going to say a little bit, it's not meant to be critical of any individual or this board, but I've been guilty in the past of pointing a finger at times at the state, that the Utah State Board of Education for some of the barriers, clunky systems and otherwise that seem to kind of put unnecessary parameters around innovation. But I'd like to also suggest that what this committee could do, besides reviewing sort of external barriers to innovation that we might see in other institutions or other groups, look at what barriers we ourselves as the State Charter School Board may put up to schools for innovations. If our systems aren't streamlined for amending or something, if our systems don't allow for schools to easily absorb new and research-based innovations or to even experiment with those, then we ourselves may be the very obstacle to innovation, at times that we often see externally in the USBE or just in the nature of the way schools are graded or from the legislature, et cetera. So, one of the things I would say is just cautionary to us is that we scrutinize our very systems and attitudes and parameters that we place on the schools we authorize, along with the wider scrutiny that we would give to other institutions that also put up those barriers to innovation.
Chair?
Thank you for that, Member Phillips. That's a good point, and I liked what you said. Member Moss.
I think I may have mentioned this last time. Rick Hess at the American Enterprise Institute has a book about the perceived restrictions that are often not quite as binding as people think they are, and how you have kind of a cultural assumption that comes that you are boxed in. And this preliminary survey that we sent out aimed to get at a little bit of that. What barriers are you aware of? What autonomy do you have? How are you using it? How would you like more autonomy? It got a few good responses that might be the starting point of just kind of analyzing, are there things charters can do to work more innovatively within the parameters that we have? Are we just not taking advantage of some of the flexibility that's out there? Are we sharing ideas about how one school has been able to successfully try something new? And then taking the other look is, okay, where are the barriers and what could we do if we pushed through those, as we're already kind of expanding responsibly and collaboratively within that autonomy that we do have. So that seems to me to be part of the function, perhaps, of the committee, is what can we already do, and then where would we go? What would we do with it? I don't know that institutions are too often eager to loosen the reins unless it's shown that we have some well thought out research-based ideas. And some of them are going to be new, but they're working in a responsible, collaborative way to try to, loosen it up a bit more. And to that point, I guess I would just suggest that for members of the committee, we look at academics and think tanks and folks who are thinking about this and doing the broad survey across the country, who's doing what where, how is it working, and, when can we take that and build on it and take the next step. So I don't know if we want to set the parameters of a committee here, a number of people, and then you take nominees. It seems like we're looking at folks from the legislature, from a school board, from business that especially are entrepreneurial and pushing the envelope, from academics. But, my 7, 8, 9 member committee of some sort, do we want to set the parameters by vote? And then I'm just throwing ideas out, but what do we want to do here in terms of kind of setting out what we want this thing to do? before we start flushing it out.
Yeah, I like that idea, having kind of a direction. And I think, I love the idea of looking at other people, places, experts outside of our state and in our state that have already researched this, and we have some good information and maybe some things that we can take and run with. I don't know, what size of a board what size of a committee do you think this should be? Usually too big, yeah, 8 or between 7 and 9 is typically a pretty good size group.
We could set the parameters as no more than 9 or a maximum.
Okay, I like that.
As long as it's big enough, I think, to cover those different types of people we want, right? But not too big to be unwieldy. I mean, it's not like they're going to actually set policy. They would be more formulating ideas and reporting back what's going on for the board, so they don't get bogged down in differences of opinion. They could just be authorized to meet, study, research, propose, that kind of thing.
And I like that idea, starting out with, let's look and see what's out there. What information do we have? What experts can we study or have them come to us? What kind of information is already out there, and what direction do we want to go? Because innovation can come in a lot of different forms, and we'll need to narrow it down, to what do we want to accomplish, and how are we going to do that through innovation. But I like that idea, and I think you hit on the main players that I'd love to have a part of this board, maybe Board of Education members, legislators, business leaders, tech people, education experts, think tank experts, yeah.
Intelligentsia.
Yeah.
So,
Member Bowles?
Just to consider, potentially, it's possible to have a subset of the committee or a staff to the committee. I'm thinking of legislators and CEOs of companies who are extremely busy in the work that they're doing. If someone could do some initial research for them and bring them information and then let them ask for additional work and talk about what they've seen and say, now we need more information, then a smaller group who has a little more time may be able to research that and then bring it back to the larger group. So you may want to think about, because it may be difficult for some of those folks to give the time that they would like to, but if they had all the information, then they're really good thinkers and talkers and can think through the information. But if you may need a smaller group to do the legwork.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Thank you. And we may have more willingness to serve if it's that kind of a situation. So I like that idea.
Could I ask Director Lambert, would there be a staff person that would be sort of the go-to or is available to do that kind of thing without swamping existing needs? I mean, obviously this is intended to be sort of, all right, we're all doing all what needs to be done. This is kind of looking ahead. Would that fit, or?
It depends upon your priorities. So, we have more than enough to do at the moment. But if this is something that is a priority, then we would set that as a priority. So it kind of depends upon if this is the direction you want to go, then that's what we would set as the priority. And yes, I would dedicate, some staff time to do the research, to do the legwork, to get this moving forward.
It seems like it's probably got to be pretty flexible, right? I mean, you've got to handle your oversight. We can't be coming in saying, well, need 5 or 10 hours of this.
Well, and this is what we talked about a little bit earlier, is that we would like, as this board, to do some things that are proactive, some things that are looking forward and building on the innovation that we already have and building on the great charter schools we already have. And we understand as a board and as staff, lots of times we get bogged down with what's happening at the moment and the crisis that we're facing, And so this is something that would be extra on staff, and I am cognizant of that, and extra on our board. But I also would love to see us do something meaningful that outlives this board, that's something that moves the needle forward on innovation, And if we don't make it a priority, we'll always be bogged down by the things that are happening and the things that we have to respond to. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, and that's why I'm bringing it to all of you. But I would love to see some kind of a working committee of this board that can come up with some amazing innovative ideas or break down some barriers for innovation, or it might be even one individual charter school that does something amazing and innovative, that we were able to break down some barriers to try some different things that may open up the pathway for other schools and other innovation. Member Phillips.
I wonder if it would be, efficacious to consider this 8 to 9 member committee, and for you as officers of the board, you and Dr. Tonks, to receive recommendations or nominations from board members here, and with the understanding that if those are approved to proceed in terms of it being asked, that we would take the initiative to ask that individual on behalf of the board. In other words, that we would take responsibility for the nomination and ask that person if they would be willing, either prior to giving you the name, or afterward if you authorized, so that first of all, it wouldn't fall heavily on any one board member or officers or staff, so that there would be a very diverse group of names, given the parameters that, around which we've discussed today. Starting with maybe just giving some nominations to officers and letting them sort of mull through them and see what they think.
Thank you. I like that idea. Dr. Tonks.
What did I miss? Who's on the committee? Did we decide that while I was out of the room, or okay?
Out of our board or out of?
Oh, okay.
We're nominating. We talked about kind of the people that we're looking for would be school board members, legislators, business leaders, tech leaders, education think tank leaders. I like that idea. What we should probably do at this point is come up with a name, so when we ask someone to serve on a committee, we know what it's called. And then I think we open it up to nominations, and then maybe the logistics of how we would do it. No one is going to be able to put in a lot of time, and maybe if we have a staff member that can help, or a staff and a board member that's willing, to kind of do some of that legwork that we talked about. I would like innovation in the name at some point, in some way, but I'm open to ideas on that.
Would it work to send this to staff and have them come back with a proposal with a couple of proposed names and an outline, and take everything that we've said here and put it into a consumable format that we could then look at going forward, or did we want to do a little more work here?
Staff would probably prefer we did a little more work here. But I would love that, I would love to have this is like a brainchild at this point. I realize it's very, it's in the very infant stages, but I think it's a good one, and I think it could make an impact, and that's what I'm hoping, But what do you think, Jennifer?
Again, we can be happy to help you. I've been taking notes and listening to the discussion. If you want us to work on a first pass, we could do that.
Okay. Is there any other direction you'd want from us at this point? Should we start on nominating names, or should we come up with more of a concrete plan first and then go to that?
I would recommend coming up with a more concrete plan so you can tell someone what to expect.
Like I said, if we can tell them the name of this committee. Okay, that helps. Thank you. That's a good suggestion, and we'll have staff help us come up with a plan, and we'll have that for our next board meeting. And at that point, then hopefully we'll have a name, a plan, kind of direction, and then we can start taking nominations and get hopefully a strong committee that can do some things impactful. Okay, great.
And I'm happy to help staff if they need an extra set of hands or pair of eyes.
As am I, yeah.
I don't recall that this was true of our other committees, but then I can't remember. Is there any kind of a directive or vote that needs to come from the board, a decision to create a new committee?
We'd probably do that. I don't know if we have to, but if we were, we'd do it probably next month when we had a plan. Check on the bylaws on that. Yeah, we have had committees of this board before.
Sure, absolutely. It's the chair, but I'll check.
Okay, you just come from me. Okay. Any other discussion on strategic planning? Anything else anyone wants to bring up? I think, this is more this is one of my goals. But I know there's other things that people would maybe want to see our board doing or doing better, or what we can do going forward. Does anyone have any other discussion or ideas or anything they want to bring up? Member Phillips. I know I can count on you.
I just wanted to bring up maybe for discussion as part of strategic planning, something that's been tossed about a little bit in the Performance Oversight Committee, which is that there is a general consensus among those committee members, needs to be fleshed out more, but probably it would be better fleshed out before the full board, about the agreement to intervene often and early in charter school monitoring and support. Both those are a combination, and that's been a function in large part, something that's already happening as staff under Director Lambert's direction and guidance has fully implemented the charter school accountability framework. But it may be that we want to make as a goal in our plan the directive that there is an ongoing need to intervene early and support early charters based on what is discovered either just tangentially or randomly, but more specifically as a result of the comprehensive and general monitoring that goes on through that framework.
Add to that.
Dr. Tonks, thanks.
And I agree with Cindy, and that I think it's germane to the entire board that in trying to define what oversight looks like, our recommendation was to look at intervening earlier, and that would drive the type of oversight that we were providing, moving in the direction of earlier intervention, which may include new staff if we want to move that direction. That would be Director Lambert's call. But wrapping the oversight around earlier intervention, especially in light of recent happenings.
It seems as if we are kind of forming goals for the year. Does that seem fair to say? So I would say I like this idea. Let's look at maybe 3 things that we want to focus on as a board this following year. One of them being this innovative committee of our board, looking at new innovation, new models. And then also looking at this intervening earlier. How do we see the problems quicker? How do we intervene earlier? How do we make a difference for our struggling schools? I like that idea, and I'm sure you have discussed some ideas in your committee.
We're early in the discussion.
You're early in the discussion of it. Okay, so it's something we can maybe report back on as we go throughout the year, and something we can watch. Okay. I think that's important, and I think our staff does an amazing job, and they are spread thin. But I think this is it's an important goal. Well, we have 2 goals. Anyone have a stab at a third? Or we can just have 2 goals. I'm good with that too.
It's pretty good. I mean, just, I guess, looking ahead to legislation, we've talked a bit about this idea of the involuntary turnover option in lieu of closure, and that seems to be something that has fairly broad support, and that we might want to lay the groundwork for now in terms of...
I like that idea a lot. And we probably don't want to call it the Involuntary School Improvement Act, but something similar.
Yeah,
Well-
intervening in a way that allows hopefully minimal disruption, and also goes into the concept of, helping those who are innovating and succeeding to expand and serve more kids. We don't ever want to see a school fail, but on the occasions that it does, it would be nice to be able to take advantage of those who have, found ways to make it work and move them into that position somehow, right? And there are legal issues to review there, but that seems to be both something that we and the state board, the state treasurer, I think would find reassuring.
I love that idea. Yeah, I think we need...
It was your idea.
Well, thank you. That's probably why I love it. I think we need, I've said this for a long time, we need more tools in our toolbox. We need more ways to help schools earlier. And we're limited by what statute, tells us we can do. So if we can start working on that now, and we're prepared for the legislative session, and we can get more options for struggling schools, I think that's a great idea, and can maybe help us avoid the catastrophic things that we see take place on occasion. So I think that's a great idea, and we have, you two do a great job with the legislature and have been very committed. So we have a great legislative committee to help kind of carry the water on that. So thank you.
We are just already getting on the books a couple of preliminary meetings that Member Moss and I would need to have with Director Lambert and some consultants in order to fashion what that kind of a statute might look like.
Okay.
So we can go up there and actually, begin to flesh it out and lobby.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. I think that's great. And I think staff, if we could have these goals in front of us, for the year, so we kind of know these are what we'd like to work on this year proactively.
I have some questions.
Okay.
So you did adopt goals that I believe James puts in your front binder.
Okay.
Do you want these in place of those goals? Do you want them added to these goals?
Read us the goals we have.
So if you just open up your binder, and every decision made by the SCSB assesses the impact on students. Increase the number of charter schools authorized by the SCSB that meet or are on track to meeting their academic goals. Increase the number of charter schools authorized by the SCSB in full compliance with their charter agreement.
Well, those are definitely worthy goals that we should continue to work on. So maybe we'll just add these to them. Member Phillips.
I look at these yearly goals that maybe we've just discussed as being subcategories of these. In other words, as you're looking as a board as you're looking at how to achieve the mission and vision that has been articulated for this board, those are the broad parameters, and each year we say, how will we go about that? And what are the several actions that we'll try to or categories that we'll focus on for this year? Where will we put our energies for this year to try to make those things happen? Because the landscape will change in terms of needs some years. Were we to get this IDEN statute, we would move on to something else that would also work to achieve those goals. So I see those as the very mission and vision aligned objectives, but that we as a board would be free each year to choose emphases and action-oriented objectives, if you will, to try to achieve those large, broad goals.
Yes, because those are broad goals that are a little bit harder to quantify and say, oh, good, we've reached that goal, we're done. Those are more, guiding goals of the board. I like that idea. But these are action events that we can actually see if we've accomplished them or not, or at least on the pathway to. So I like that idea.
That's another question.
Yes. So did that answer your question?
Kind of. So the point is that you've had these in your binder. Is that good enough to have in front of you every board meeting, or do you want it in another place, in another way?
I like having it in the binder.
I like having it in the binder. I forgot it was there, frankly. But now that you've pointed it out, I'm going to look at it more often. Thank you. But I like the idea of adding those yearly goals too, that are kind of more action items that we can check off at some point. So, okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, if not, I'm looking for a motion.
Move to adjourn? Is that the one you're looking
That's
for?
the one. We don't even need to vote, do we? We need a second? We need a second.
I second that.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. And best wishes to Crystal today.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was hers. It was hers.
It was hers.
Yeah, and she had her wallet in there.
Oh, she had her wallet in there?
Yes.
Okay, so.
And while she was out, Elisa texted me that our high school, Wasatch, was on lockdown
But we've
because of a guy with a gun, but it's resolved.
Yeah.
But,
He was just taking it to his car to clean it, apparently, to take it to go get
yeah,
done.
it's Heber. You hunt, but you got to be on the watch. You got to be on the lookout, right? So that it's still scary.
Hypersensitive now.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, but it is scary. I haven't had it on lockdown for a gun before. That's my first, my school is on lockdown for a gun. I got it from Elisa because we had kids at the same high school. She left and went up to Heber, I think. But yeah, I didn't get an official school one. I had to ask my daughter. And, she said, yeah, I was a kid. And everything's fine.
Maybe they have levels of at what point they actually inform parents, because
Yeah.
they weren't even, this person wasn't even on the property, apparently. They
Oh,
didn't
was that
cross the property.
right?
They were just near the property
Oh.
of the school.
So there were rumors that he was in the bathroom. And that's what Elisa said. She says, the rumors of these, we'll see what the facts are.
Scott said that it was right, like it was somebody taking the gun from either the business or their house to their car, and the parking lot was next to the
Somebody saw it. And
Thank you, everyone.
it's good though. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm glad I would
See
much rather be
something, say
nervous for 20 minutes